at the foot of this partition. There's a box there, and there are a number of small books which are for free and for distribution. If there's a need, you can take two. There are quite a few there, but I'd prefer you not to. Maybe we give the rest out to the masses on Jum'ah, but certainly you guys get priority. It's put together by a friend of mine, and it's on the issue of ruqya, on the issue of the various statements, the various ayat of Quran that can be recited at various times to protect yourselves from the fitan of shayateen al-ins wal jinn, the human and the proper devils, the jinni devils if you like. So anyway, it's free, and just pick up a copy as you're going out at any time. Okay, we'll start in a second. We're live? Good one. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Okay folks, so today, in celebration of, because definitely we should start big things at big moments, and obviously with the great news, and obviously we should celebrate the Catholic Church for choosing a new Pope. And so in recognition of this great moment, and in appreciation of white smoke after so many hours of dirty black smoke, jinni kind of smoke it was, but now alhamdulillah it's clean smoke, clean white smoke. And I think that we should share the love with our Catholic brothers and sisters, especially when you consider this chapter, it's very important, to be honest, has a very big Catholic link. You didn't see that, that's the problem. This is the chapter of utensils and containers, which includes basins. And there's no people that I know on the face of this planet that take a basin more seriously than the Catholics. And the way that they baptize their children in that basin is something very important. So I thought it would be relevant that for us to understand the rulings of this basin, what it can be made of, what it can't be. I'm on best behavior, I'm controlling myself so much, subhanAllah. It's like I've got my tongue like this. Anyway, so Bismillah. So the chapter of everyone's got the notes, yeah? Everyone's seen the new notes? Yes, hopefully. You've either been on the forums or you got there on the portal. You can, if you're online now, you can click it at the top and have a quick look of your notes. And that's my fault. Sorry, I should have done that. So the chapter, and we're going to have a look at. Obviously, we'll explain why this has come at this moment, and it's also the first chapter, which is actually what Shaykh Uthaymeen and actually all of the teachers in this particular in commentary to this have made their opening remarks on. That it's the first time that we're coming across the word bab. Okay, the word bab. Now, bab itself, you know that there's you can say that there's three types of division. Yeah, three types of division. There's book, kitab. So kitab al-tahara, we're on kitab al-tahara, the book of purification. And then you have bab, which I'm translating as chapter. Okay, bab of course means door, right? And the scholars, they said that the reason that in the books of fiqh and in the books of sharia, why you have it divided into abwab is the plural of bab, you have it like that because and the word bab, door, is used because it's seen as a entry into the barakah. So if you think of it, the word bab, what does bab actually mean? It is the opening in a wall dividing two things. So the outside and the inside. And so when someone is outside and they want the benefit of the inside, like when they're out in the cold and they want to come into a warm house, then they have to enter through the door. So it's the entry point to barakah, to knowledge, to maslahah, to benefit. So I want you to understand that's the reason why the ulama, they called it bab. And then the third word that they use is fasl. Okay, fasl. Now fasla, yani fasl, I have translated as section. And actually, the word fasl means to divide as well. It means to compartmentalize, to section. And when we say section in a book, also in the English language, when we say he needed to be sectioned, it means that he needed to be put away from the eyes of the people, right? He needed to be locked up, or he was harming people, or whatnot. So we need to put him away, so separate from the people. So all of these three words are words effectively that are describing division. Anyway, that's the word bab. So Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says that when you look at them, they start with the general and they go to the specific. So kitab is the most general, and it is a statement which is, or it's a word which encompasses a number of chapters. So the kitab always has a number of chapters, and then likewise it will reduce down. The chapter will then, if necessary, have a number of sections. And in principle, a section is only used for something very, very specific. Okay? For something very, very specific. Is that clear, everybody? So a human example would be grain. So grain or seeds would be the book, and then rice, wheat, corn would be the chapters. Does that make sense? And what happens to corn when it matures, and the various flour and the cob and the chaff and the various products that come from corn, these will be the sections. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's, I think, just pretty kind of straightforward point. So, and sometimes I want you to understand also that this is a human division and a human process. One shouldn't read too much into, oh, he made a chapter here and a book here or something like this, because this is sometimes done by the author to break up long text or many issues. So he just wants to make it something more manageable. So I want you to understand that. So let's have a quick look at the translation. Actually, why don't we read the first line? So Babul Aniya. Babul Aniya. And I've translated Aniya as the chapter of implements. Aniya, okay, as a word, it is the plural of ina. So Aniya is the plural of ina. And the word Aniya itself, it also has a plural. So the plural has a plural. So the jama' of ina is aniya, and the jama' of aniya is awan. Okay, and this is possible in the Arabic language. When you study Arabic language, you'll realize that there are a number of different plurals. Okay, different plurals, and I don't want to get into that because it's messy. But the point is that these are words that can be interchanged, yani, in its right place and right time. And what is ina? What actually is ina? Ina classically is wi'a. Okay, it's a container. In Arabic, ina generally is used for a container of some form, whether that's a bowl or a pot or a basin, something like that. Okay, so then you might say, okay, if that's the case, why are we calling it the chapter of utensils? Because if we called it the chapter of containers, in the English, the word container is a lot more specific and restricted than the word utensils. Even though in English, certainly, when you say the word utensil, you don't think of pots. Would you agree? Yeah? So when you talk about utensils, you're talking more about tools and fork and knife and whatnot. Now, the issue here is that because there are so many, and this is what the scholar said, because there are so many different implements, utensils and containers that need to be covered in fiqh, it would be silly and just ridiculous to have a subsection on every single different type. So they created a word, aniya, and they chucked it all underneath that. So that's very important for you to understand. So in this, even according to their original intention, they were intending pots, basins, jugs, glasses, forks, knives, spoons, and then various other utensils. Very much so, I want to say, linked to eating and drinking. In principle, the word aniya is linked to eating and drinking. That's not to say it's exclusive to eating and drinking, and that's why we will at this moment in time also cover the issue of using tools. So we'll add this extra kind of dimension as well to the word tools, which would then be a workman scenario. That's going to come later in the chapter. That's the first thing. The other thing you might say is that why are we doing this right now? And the reason for that is because the books of fiqh, they have a challenge. There's so much stuff to talk about. So either we put everything in its right order and wait for the right time to come. That's one way of doing it. Or we will put it in some kind of order, but if we get an opportunity to be able to deal with something because it's linked to the current subject, then we'll do it now rather than later, because at least if we do it now, then later you can come back and say, we did this earlier, as opposed to not understand the issue fully now and its surrounding issues, and then saying to ourselves, but we'll do it then, but we'll do it then. Now you'll realize, of course, that we have chosen the second one. The books of fiqh, generally they choose the first one. Okay? The reason that we've chosen the second one is because we are in it for such a long haul that if we did it in any other way, this class would be chaos. Alright? It would be chaos. And actually, naturally, I am the second kind of style. Naturally myself. It's very, very difficult for me, as you probably learned already, for me to stick to the subject. Okay? It's a personal problem that I have, and I find it very, very difficult. But there is a common sense in sticking to the subject. You get more done, and you get done in the right order. So I just want you to understand the relationship about why someone might bring an issue forward. Why are we bringing the chapter of containers forward? Because we've just done water. Okay, we've done everything to do with water, and we are in the chapter or in the book of purification. And it's not possible to purify yourself with water unless it's in a container. Unless it's in a container. Water is by its very nature something which cannot be held except in a container. In fact, in the dictionary definition of what ina is, it is that which preserves a item, holds it together. So clearly you can see the natural use now that we need to have and apply the now. When we're making wudu, we've understood all the rulings to do with the actual water itself, but what about where it comes from? So if we have basins and so on and so forth, or pots that are made of different materials, we need to know, what if the water is pure, but the pot is najis? This thing is on, isn't it? I think it is. It is. Sure, you can tell. No, not the thingy, this nonsense bakwas up here.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell you every time, get rid of it, because I can smell it. It's just completely stunk me out. So please, someone remove it. I was just there and I heard the sound, and then all I can now smell is that floral jasmine nonsense, yani. And I'm covered in it. And I feel sick now, honestly. You can't reach it. Bob's, sort it out, yara. Bob's, you lazy pack. You should have can't reach up there, yara. That's a Bob's fail, that. I was smelling so nice as well, subhanAllah. I'm ruined for the week. You can't even get that stuff off you, you know what I mean? It's concentrate. I think it was Sheikh Abdul Ghafari, sabotage the dars. I haven't even started on Somalis yet. That's coming in the next page. Did you predict the attack on Somalis, did you, or something? Right. Okay, where were we? Where was we before I got the attacked containers? What does that mean? What container? What we're talking about? Alright, so that's the reason we're covering it now. Because we have water, we have pure water, but it has to come from somewhere. If the dish itself is najis, if the dish itself is gold, if the dish itself is made of jewels, whatever, what's the ruling with respect to our wudu? Okay, that's the natural reason why we're covering it now. So that's the context. So let's start straight away then. The text with respect to the opening line of Arabic. The Sheikh says, Babul Aniya al-Hijjawi, the author rahmatullah alayh, He said, كل إناء طاهر ولو ثمينا يباه اتخاذه واستعماله إلا آنية ذهب وفضة ومضببا بهما فإنه يحرم اتخاذها واستعمالها ولو على أنثى. ولو على أنثى. Now we just read it up to there. That's enough for if we even get that far, that'd be amazing. But you know, with respect to the English, the chapter of implements, all pure implements, even if expensive, are lawful to acquire and use. Here we've got two separate words here: اتخاذ والاستعمال. Acquire, we've given as a translation, we'll look at that later, and use, استعمال. Except for implements of gold, silver, and what is soldered by them. This is because these are unlawful to acquire and use even for a woman. Even for a woman. Okay? So that's the actual Arabic text and the translation of the text as well. So now let's look at now the understanding behind it. With respect to utensils, there's an immediate principle we're going to use. I'll put it out to you. How are we going to determine, what are we going to use to determine whether these are permissible or not? Whether they are pure or not? Because that's his initial statement, right? That they are all pure. Or any object. Let's say take any object, but here we're looking at utensils and implements, okay? What do you think the principle is with respect to permissibility?
It's permissible unless they
It's permissible. Permissible, yani to deal with them and use them is permissible?
Unless it's said that it's haram.
Unless we have an evidence that it's haram. Why is that? What's the proof for that?
Everything is basically halal except for in ibadah, everything is halal except for things which are as haram.
Good. Other than worship, other than ibadah, everything in life is halal. Okay? Everything. And the reason for that, okay, is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, هُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ لَكُم مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ جَمِيعًا. It was He who created all that is on the earth for you. So, what's Allah saying in Surah Al-Baqarah here, verse 29? He's saying that Allah is saying that He is the one who has created for you everything on this earth. Created for you means what? For you to use, for you to benefit from, for you to sell, buy, trade with, use, look at, enjoy, etc., etc. This is everything. Now, this principle is called in Arabic al-aslu fil ashya al-ibaha. That the principle, the status quo, the basic principle when it comes to things, when it comes to life, when it comes to non-worship matters, is that everything is permissible. Except that which Allah prohibits. So then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will then send something down, an ayah, a hadith by the Prophet ﷺ, which will say, except gold and silver, except all meat is allowed to you, eat what you want, except dead meat, except meat which is killed like this, except and so on and so forth. Yes, does that make sense? And I want you to appreciate that. Which is of course the exact opposite as a principle to ibadah. When it comes to worship, everything is haram with respect to worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except that which He tells us and how He tells us via the Prophet ﷺ. So we, as I gave many examples before, we can't go around and make the religion up as we go along. We have to wait for a text, a nas. You have to start getting used to these words. Nas, which is text. The word nas, singular, nusus is the plural. So we have to have nusus or a nas, a text, a textual proof that says you are allowed to do this. Now, Sheikh Uthaymeen, he wants to make a point here of this principle, and it's good because it means it will save us time later on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we just said in Surah Al-Baqarah verse 29, has established the Quranic proof, but also we have some evidence from the Sunnah as well. As Sheikh Uthaymeen says on page 69, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَمَا سَكَتَ عَنْهُ فَهُوَ عَفُو, that whatever Allah is silent about, then that is an afu. The word afu, okay, afu is an interesting word. It means pardon, okay, and I guess that maybe we translate it here as it has pardoned for you, maybe, I guess. Afu is a noun, so we can't use it in the form of a verb, but I can't translate it in any other way. By the way, the translation point thingy, as I always said, it was clear in the Arabic. All right, the understanding was clear in the chapter, the last sentence in the book of purification, or the chapter of water. But our English wasn't good enough. And then a brother by the name of Junaid, he gave a suggestion, and it was excellent. And I included it. So if you go back and read it, that's exactly what the translation should read. And it's also, subhanAllah, faithful to the Arabic as well, which is a good job that he did that. So this hadith, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is silent about, then He has pardoned it for you. This hadith, as the muhaqqiq, the one who's doing the authenticating in this book, he has said that this is narrated by Al-Bazzar, and its number is 117 in the Mukhtasar version of the Zawaid, because of course this is Majma' Zawaid is the book of Bazzar, and it's a major book of hadith, but this is a reference only being given to the Mukhtasar, which is the summarized version. But it has also been collected by Ibn Abi Hatim al-Razi in his tafsir, and narrated by Al-Hakim and Al-Bayhaqi, and they have all collected this narration. And the reason I'm going into this detail is because this hadith is not very, it's not the most authentic of narrations that you'll find. So an argument needs to be put together for it. All of these scholars, these muhaddithin, they've collected this hadith with their chain on the authority of Asim ibn Raja, on the authority of his father, on the authority of Abu Darda, bihi marfu'an. When you see marfu'an, then you know this means that it has been raised to the Prophet ﷺ. Whenever you see a hadith marfu'an, that's what it means, that this is a statement of the Prophet ﷺ. Bazzar himself, Al-Bazzar, who was obviously one of the scholars of hadith, he said, Isnaduhu salih, which literally translated means that the chain is righteous, but technically speaking means that it's a good chain. It's a good chain. And Hakim said, Sahih al-Isnad, it's an authentic chain. And Imam al-Dhahabi, he agreed. And al-Haythami, he said, Isnadhu Hasan wa rijaluhu muwaththaqun, that the chain itself is okay, but the narrators themselves are people of thiqah, they are trustworthy. And he mentioned that in Majma' al-Zawaid. And you can see Fath al-Bari for more information on that. We will accept this hadith as authentic. Okay, we will accept this hadith as authentic, and what it provides us, is a separate sunnah evidence that shows that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not mentioned, meaning He has not said this is haram, then you go ahead and enjoy it or use it. Is that clear, everybody? That's the first use. Also, there's another statement of the Prophet ﷺ, which is narrated by At-Tabarani, إن الله فرض فرائض فلا تضيعوها وحد حدود فلا تعتدوها وسكت عن أشياء رحمة بكم غير النسيان فلا تبحثوا عنها. This is a very nice hadith, which is narrated again in the footnotes by Imam At-Tabarani and Ad-Daraqutni, and it is on the authority of Abu Tha'laba al-Khushani. And there are some scholars that said that there's a problem with this. This is where this is explained by the statement وأعله أبو المسحر الدمشقي وأبو نعيم وابن رجب بعدم السماع مكحول عن أبي ثعلب الخشني. There are a number of scholars in a minority that said that there was an illah. An illah, as we said, if you go back to the original lessons, we said illah is a secret hidden fault, not very clear. And they said that Makhul, who is one of the tabi'een in this chain, he did not hear from Abu Tha'laba, and so therefore there's a break, and therefore they considered it to be weak. In any case, inshallah, the hadith meaning is accepted, and some scholars even accepted the hadith as well. The translation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has obligated for you obligations. I'm translating off the cuff here, by the way. That Allah has obligated obligations for you, so do not be negligent. Good, yeah. فَلَا تُضَيِّعُوهَا. Do not be negligent with respect to them. وَحَدَّ حُدُودًا. And he has specified the limits, so do not transgress them. Yani don't go past these limits. وَحَدَّ حُدُودًا فَلَا تَعْتَدُوهَا وَسَكَتَ عَنْ أَشْيَاء. And this of course is now going back to the previous hadith. And he has been silent on a number of issues out of mercy to you, غَيْرَ النِّسْيَانِ. Not because Allah has forgotten. Not because Allah has forgotten. فَلَا تَبْحَثُوا عَنْهَا. Don't go looking for them. What does that statement mean? It means that anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has not mentioned, this is not because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgets, but because He's allowed it for you and He's made it permissible for you. So don't you go around now and make yourself an issue. That, he hasn't spoken about this, hasn't spoken about that, it must be haram, I've got to find out why it's haram. You got people like that, they're such on a power about life that they just can't just accept the fact that yes, some things are allowed and some things are not, and that's the end of it. They want to try and make everything, they almost see life, and this is obviously one of the major problems of our own religious development, that we link religiosity with strictness, and that we link religiosity with prohibition. Diyana, religiosity, the sense of I'm more practicing, that's what we call religiosity. That people believe that religiosity is linked to, as I said, that I should be doing less things, that more things should be haram upon me. And this is not right. If you put upon yourself some controls which you are able to do, that's fine. But don't make things haram which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made halal, which is in itself a major issue anyway. Okay? So I hope those are enough background points to establish the principle, as Shaykh said, that whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He is silent about, then this is what is allowed. Yeah.
How do you understand Ibn Rajab in Jami' al-Ulum al-Hikmah? He gathers a number of narrations from Tabi'in and Sahaba who said that between us and haram we put a barrier of what's halal. So how do you understand that statement?
Between us
and the haram, we put a
and the
barrier
haram
of what is halal.
Yeah, so this is an emphasis of what I just said. A person, on an individual basis, he decides to leave things out of caution, out of staying out of the doubtful matters. He creates for himself something without saying they're haram, then this is okay. He doesn't say it's haram. As the exact statement says, they even said, we'll put that barrier of halal. We accept it's halal. We're just not going to go there because it's going to make ourselves soft, weak. We might want to then start, after having this little bit halal, have a bit more halal. We start going, and it'll make us into a. It's like any human activity. There are certain things which are allowed. Okay, I don't know, even to like all human beings. I can't think of a relevant example, but a person will know that the more that they allow their willpower to become weaker, even though they're not saying that thing is not necessarily allowed, but they just want to test themselves and create strong willpower, the more that you don't concentrate on it and you allow it to slide each time, when the time comes when you need to exercise it, you'll be weaker. This is the principle of the Salihin.
Yeah, but that shows that they did use personal strictness as a form of strengthening religiosity.
No. What I'm trying to say to you is that you mustn't. You're confusing two things: personal practice and personal belief, and believing that the religion, and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed, not at the personal level, but actually promoting, calling people out, looking at others, belittling others because they're doing certain actions, and for them everything should be on the down low, everything should be much more stricter, everything, because for them the religiosity in the religion is linked to strictness, is linked to more prohibition, as opposed to a personal practice. You know what I'm trying to say? There's a psychological impact, and you can see it, of course. You can see when you look at these different people who go around causing these kind of issues, whether they're going out on the streets or this nonsense that will happen in London, Muslim patrols or whatnot. Yeah, okay. It's a psychological thing that actually goes out, and it starts to impact upon the external and upon other people. Right. So, I also want to just say, just for the sake, because Shaykh Uthaymeen himself, he mentions it here, so we might as well do it as well. He says that what is the basis for the opposite? What's the basis that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not allow anyone to establish anything in worship except that which He allows? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ شَرَعُوا لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Surah Shura, verse 21. How can they believe in others who ordain for them things which Allah has not sanctioned in the practice of their faith? So if you look at this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to, how can a person go out there, okay, with respect to فَدَلَّ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ مَا يَدِينُ الْعَبْدِ بِهِ رَبَّهُ لَا بُدَّ أَن يَكُونَ اللَّهُ أَذِنَ بِهِ. That anything which someone is, what this verse proves clearly, is that anyone who wants to worship Allah, not enjoy chocolate or use for swimming or use for climbing, what someone wants to worship Allah with, it's not permissible to use that except that which Allah has given permission for. And this is clear from this verse of Shura. As from the ahadith, it's very, very clear. Many, many narrations. For example, the Prophet ﷺ said, as narrated by Imam Ahmed, إِيَّاكُمْ مُحْدِثَاتُ الْأُمُورِ فَإِنَّ كُلَّ بِدْعَةٍ ضَلَالَةٍ. Beware of every new matter in the religion, because every innovated matter is a going astray. Is that clear, everybody? This is a very important point. Every new matter is an innovative action on behalf of that person. They're thinking that they're bringing something new to the table. And all of these new matters from human beings in religious matters is a going astray, without exception. Okay? Without exception. And we'll talk about that another time, about the other issues. Anyway, that's just something to establish the principles. Now let's get back to utensils themselves. Utensils, all of them. Small, big, nice, ugly, expensive, cheap. All of them, the basic principle is that they're all allowed. Okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the story concerning Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam, يَعْمَلُونَ لَهُ مَا يَشَاءُ مِن مَحَارِيبٍ وَتَمَاثِيلٍ وَجِفَانٍ كَالْجَوَارِبِ وَقُدُورِ الرَّاسِيَاتِ in Surah Sabah. Surah Sabah, verse 13. The translation of, they made for Sulaiman alayhi salam whatever he wanted. Palaces, statues, basins as large as water troughs, yani huge containers, okay, and fixed cauldrons. And the scholars, they mentioned that here is a actual verbal, because you see, the reason they're mentioning this point, the scholars mention this point, is because they're trying to say, why would a person consider a utensil to be haram? It's only two ways really, isn't it? Other than it being impure. Either because it's made of something haram, or because it emotionally sends off the haram signals. What would emotionally something haram be? Something massive, right? If you saw a huge yani water trough or huge pot, like a deer, yani, you know, as they say, full of lovely biryani, barsa biryani. Oh man. Where's Amjad, ya Raif? Amjad, you're watching, ya. Where's our invitation, man? Nice big dig. Dig or dig? Dig. G at the end.
That's plural.
G. Yeah, you got me all happy now, man. Haven't eaten all day, man, or something. So, you look at something which is huge, and you may think, subhanAllah, that this is haram, this is so big, it's such a waste. If it can be, and Shaykh Uthaymeen makes this point here, he goes that if you do want to look at whether something is permissible or impermissible, it will only be from the ayah إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like the extravagant people, meaning wasteful people. So someone who is not needing that and is just flashing it around just to show off, then that's haram from a khuyala, from showing off. That's haram from that angle. It's not haram from the utensil angle itself. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's just make that clear. So the first statement is that every utensil is tahir. Okay, every utensil is tahir. So therefore, what this means is that obviously not referring to najas. Okay, not referring to najas ones, because it's not permissible to use something which is najas. It's not something which is used to use something which itself is impure. According to the author, Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says, I don't know about that. He says that I think that's not necessarily the case. That something najas can be used if there is a benefit for it, okay? It can be used as long as it's not haram. As long as it's not haram. Sheikh, and now this is it might lose you a bit this here, but he gives a very interesting example. Okay? He goes, look at the hadith. He goes, لأن النجس يباح استعماله إذا كان على وجه لا يتعدى. يعني that it's possible to use najas if there's some kind of need for it. And he goes, the evidence, according to me, Shaykh Uthaymeen says, is the hadith of Jabir ibn Abdullah radiyallahu anhu at when they conquered Mecca. When they entered upon Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ said, إن الله حرم بيع الخمر والميتة والخنزير والأصنام. Allah has prohibited the selling of alcohol, of carrion, of pork, and statues, or that which is worshipped, idols. The companion said, Ya Rasulullah, أرأيت شحوم الميتة فإنها تطلى بها السفن وتدحن بها الجلود ويستصبح بها الناس. What about the shuhum, the suet, the fat of the carrion? So you got all this dead meat all over the place, and you've got obviously all the fat. Yeah. Now obviously things back then were not like it is now. So anything that you could make use of, you would. So fat is something which is very valuable. And they said to him, Ya Rasulullah, what about using that fat? Because we coat our ships with it to give that waterproofing. And we oil our skins with it to make them, supple, to like when you're treating skins, leather skins I'm talking about, all right? And we use it for lighting, so we burn it as a fuel to create light. Rasulullah ﷺ said, La huwa haram. No, it is haram. Now, this hadith narrated by Bukhari. What Shaykh Uthaymeen said, he said that what's interesting here is that the Prophet ﷺ أقر هذا الفعل مع أن هذه الأشياء نجسة. يعني the Prophet ﷺ accepted the argument of the use of najasa, but didn't allow it because the item itself was haram. Because the intifa', the benefiting of this itself from that specific item was haram. Because it's been mentioned. Because it's got a nas there. Because the Prophet ﷺ has said carrion. So therefore we can't use carrion. He didn't say we can't use it because it's najas. Does that make sense? This is what Shaykh Uthaymeen is trying to say. This shuhum al-mayta, this fat of the carrion, the companions gave a number of uses for it. The Prophet ﷺ did not rubbish these uses. What he rubbished, in fact, what he said is haram, is that, almost, if I'm going to add brackets, it's like, I appreciate the benefit that you're trying to take from it, but it's haram to use carrion. That is my kind of translation. Does that make sense? If you translate that hadith in that way, then it would suggest that it is permissible for a need to use things which are najas by themselves. Okay, if it's not haram, there's no text that says it's haram. Okay, now this is a controversial point, and we touched a little bit upon this in the earlier chapter. The only example, I got no idea why this example came to me, but the only example I can think of is using, the good old doing a dump in the garden for your plants. Now, obviously, I'm not advocating that. Okay, but feces themselves, they are incredibly beneficial. Okay, yeah. Come on, Dr. Yara, come on. They're full of nitrogen. They're full of organic what? Organic something or the other. I got no idea. Be positive, Yara. Be positive. Huh? Nitrates. I already said that. You can't say they're full of nitrates. They're full of organic nitrates. Yeah? That's a blag, that. But I don't know what they're full of. But I know that you can seriously grow some amazing trees with that stuff. Okay? Not that I've got any personal experience in it, but I'm just saying that that's a reality. So, it's najas. It's najas. Is it permissible for someone to go and to use that to actually create, and for it to, it will completely biodegrade, because it's biodegradable, okay? And as long as it degrades completely and none of the filth comes out, but the nitrates themselves come out, and they are able to thinking I'm digging myself a hole here. But the point is that this is the only example I can think of. If I sit down with a pen and a paper, I'm sure that I could work out some other examples. But the point is here that maybe it is permissible to actually use something which is najis, which we'll come back to later with respect to the text. Now let's move on very quickly. The Shaykh says then, وَلَوْ ثَمِينًا. Thaman means price. A thameen means expensive price. So Shaykh Uthaymeen is saying that actually emotionally you need to be understanding that it doesn't matter whether the item itself is very, very expensive or not. You'll be thinking that way because you know what's coming in a minute, except gold and silver. And so when you think except gold and silver, you're thinking, because this is a waste of money. Actually, it's not about being a waste of money, and it's not. Sheikh says it doesn't matter if it's made from jewels, it's not if it's made from zumurrud. Who knows what zumurrud is? Emerald, okay? Or it's made from mas, which is diamonds, okay? Your item or your thing, whatever, could be made from any of these, and it's permissible for it to use. It is pure. At this moment in time, in the text, in the Arabic, we are not actually talking about using it or buying it or anything. At the moment, we're still talking about it being pure, okay? So far, we've said every utensil, every implement is pure in principle, even if it is expensive. The next sentence now, okay, is what establishes the reality, the legal ruling behind it with respect to using it. يُبَاحُ اتِّخَاذُهُ وَاسْتِعْمَالُهُ. Yani, it is permissible for all of the previous things we just mentioned, all utensils, even if expensive, to acquire or to use. What's the difference between acquire and use? What we're talking about here is this. Use is clear, yes? So you get a spoon and you're eating out of it, and you get your knife and fork and your whatever, and your bowl is what you're drinking out of, and your cup. This is use. Is that clear? Ittikhad, ittakhada means to take, yes? That's what it means to take, linguistically speaking. But here, legally speaking, ittikhad means either to buy or to purchase, to sell. So they are taking custody of something, taking ownership of something without using it. Anything where you are taking ownership of something without physically using it is ittikhad. So that would be either just buying it for whatever, to give it as a gift, buying it so you can keep it to sell later, buying it to put it on the wall because you don't normally put these things on the wall, okay? But maybe you want to decorate your house or something like that, then, in fact they do that, isn't it? Is it Gore who do that? They stick plates on the wall, right? Yeah. Not Gore, actually my mum I think did it as well. Diana and Charles plate, no? Doesn't every mum do that? No? It's just my mum's a pack, yeah? Mum, if you're watching, forgive me for saying that. Because she does watch, Yani. I had the live, but I've told the whole world your secret. Definitely definitely we had a Diana Charles mug. There's no doubt about that. And no one drank out of it. It was just, in the thingy. But I'm sure we had a plate, and I'm sure that was like put up on the thingy. See? SubhanAllah, the books of fiqh, they knew that this was going to happen. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar. Right, so, Shaykh says that to acquire it in this manner, this is permissible as well. So there's two parts here. إِلَّا آنِيَةَ ذَهَبْ وَفِضَّةٍ. Other than utensils made of gold or silver. Important principle here, the word illa. The word illa in Arabic means except, okay? And I was just reading Sheikh Muhammad Mukhtar Shanqiti's commentary to this, and he mentioned a nice qaida usuliyah, which is a principle in usul al-fiqh, meaning that this is a principle that these are the tools that a scholar uses to derive evidences. So when he sees a word, he knows how to use or approach that word. So in Arabic, أَنَّمَا بَعْدَ إِلَّا مُخَالِفٌ لِمَا قَبْلَهَا فِي الْحُكَمِ. This is an usul. Okay, this is a rule. Translated roughly, whatever comes after the word illa will be different in ruling to what came before the word illa. Okay? So whenever you look in the Quran or whenever you look in the Hadith, you have this rule at the back of your head that if I come across a phrase or a sentence which makes a statement and then says illa da 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 da, okay, what it means is that the translation again, anything which comes after the word illa is mukhalifun, is different to that which came before it, lima qablaha fil hukm, with respect to legal ruling. So its legal ruling will differ. So in this sentence, يعني كل إناء طاهر, every utensil is pure, okay, and even if it's expensive, to use it and to acquire it, except gold and silver. So except gold and silver, what's the implied meaning therefore, if you understand? To acquire it and to use it. This is the implied meaning from the text itself. Okay, I want you to understand. Now, of course, I should also add, who are we hating on at the moment? We need the people because we need some kind of Somalis. Yeah, we need to hate on the Somalis because they set me up today. We hated on Pakistanis enough, all right? And Gujis, I think we hated on last week. So now it's a turn of Somalis. The fuqaha, the Somali people were out. Well, all two of you. Three. Okay. So the fuqaha, they mentioned that the scholars, the fuqaha, they mentioned that there is a third substance which is impermissible, right? Gold, silver, and what Somalis use for their plates and their utensils. Human skin and human bones. It's true, isn't it? Yeah, Somalis.
No, you won't.
No, are you not cannibals down there? No.
What's happened in the 1993 when
Only happened once. Only happened. I can't believe you admitted that. That's the worst defense ever, man. Oh my God. Okay. So وذكر بعض الفقهاء استثناء آخر فقال إلا عظم آدمي وجلده. So in one of the Hanbali books of fiqh, they said that in Kashaf, they said that it's not permissible to use a tool or a plate or something like that which is made out of human skin, which is interesting because they said لأنه محترم بحرمته, actually because of his sanctity, not only that, but the Prophet ﷺ said on the top of page 73, كسر عظم ميت ككسر حيا, that if you use this hadith is obviously assuming not what the Somalis do, because this hadith is assuming that they're dead. Whereas Somalis, they've got another next flex, yani. They find an extra, I think that is in the market is double the value if you produce a live version. Huh? Astaghfirullah. The breaking, this is revenge. Akhi, I am covered in jasmine nonsense, yani. Do you realize that? Yeah? Do you realize that I came out wearing oud, heavy quality oud this evening? Bengali oud, yeah. I just want to say to all the Bengalis out there that Shazad, when I sat in the car, he picked me up today, and the first words, he said, Assalamu alaikum, off Bengali oud. Astaghfirullah, how racist is that? And you know what? I just want to say shout out to all my Bengali brothers and sisters that I stood up for you. I said, MashaAllah, Bengalis must have upped their game then, because I'd be smelling fine. I had a quality, heavy oud on that. I just picked up in Hajj just right now. So he's trying to diss the Bengali, saying Bengali oud. And I said,
What was my response?
one second, hold on. I said, SubhanAllah, if that's the truth, you're saying this is Bengali oud, then the Bengalis have definitely upped their game. They must be smelling really nice. That's the defense of Bengali, isn't it? What did you say?
I said it's been a long time since I give you some.
Oh, yeah. That's right. He said, yeah. He goes, I need to get you perfumes again. I need to buy you some more perfumes. I said, wallahi, that's good as well. As we always said, we have a no refusal. We don't have a refusal policy on gifts, huh, Bobs? It doesn't just have to be cheap chocolates or whatever, does it? Yeah. Anyway. So, okay, so gold is clear. everyone I think understands what gold is, and silver is clear. I think everyone knows what silver is. This, Sheikh says, covers small amounts, large amounts. It covers half made, not half made. It covers small plates, large plates, all of them. Then the Sheikh then says, and that which is وَمُضَبَّبًا بِهِمَا, and that which is soldered. So you might be thinking, what on earth is going on there? But I want you to understand that with utensils and bowls and, I don't know, china or whatever, I don't know, made of whatever they are, them being weak or, I don't know, if they break, we've got a case of the giggles here, I think. We have, and the problem is that these guys have got the giggles and they're making me laugh. So we've got to stop laughing now, okay? So I suggest you turn around this way, okay? Yes. And so just you, Yani, look at Nasir. That will stop anyone laughing, Yani, okay? And then I'll just keep looking at Shazad, and that does an oily trick for me as well. Most miserable guy on the planet, Bobs? Yeah, I thought that you'd teach me to be smiley, be happy. Every time angry. Huh? Sheikh? Tell him, give some nasiha, Yani. He's not a lawyer, he's a dentist. He's a lawyer. He's a dentist. He should have it's Ola. He has more right to show his teeth than anyone else. You know what I'm saying? We hide our teeth, yeah, and that's understandable. Because even though smiling is sadaqah, it's not sadaqah when your teeth are yellow, you know what I'm saying? Then it's a bid'ah, maybe haram even. Okay. Anyway, so now what the Sheikh now says, all right, is talking about now soldering. So what we're talking about soldering is this. So we have a plate and it cracks. So we now need to stick it together. This is what soldering is. So you get obviously very, very hot melted gold or silver and you line it and obviously it sticks back together again, and that's effectively what's happened with that. Soldering is of two types. One which is of fixing, and that's the basic principle, but it can also be of decoration as well. So what we're talking about here, all right, everybody, is that if a plate has been cracked and fixed with it, or is now surrounded by it, then in principle, this is also not allowed except for any exceptions. And the exceptions will come in a minute. Now, I just also want to just make sure that you understand something here. When we're talking about gold and silver, we don't mean just pure gold and pure silver. We're talking about that which has been brushed by gold. We're talking about gold plated, silver plated, whatever, whatnot. Pack jewelry, utensils not included. Yeah, because packs, we just paint ours silver and gold. Yeah? I've got some at home, they're amazing. You know what they do? They make them really, really heavy. I don't know what they put in them, and then they paint them yellow. I don't know, I use it for my chicken or whatever anyway. Yeah, I was thinking, I don't know something to this kid, yeah, he's lost he's lost the plot, you know that? I don't know.
I think both of you.
Huh? Well, to be honest, I think it's my fault. Right, anyway. So, okay, we're gonna go 5 minutes left. Okay. So, and what's the evidence for that? Anyway, what's the evidence for it not being permissible to use an item as a utensil which has been soldered? The evidence is the hadith of Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ said on the authority of Hudayfa radiallahu an, لا تشربوا في آنية الذهب والفضة ولا تأكلوا في صحافها فإنها لهم في الدنيا ولكم في الآخرة. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not drink from vessels made of gold or silver, vessels, containers, whatever, and do not eat in their plates, لا تأكلوا in their plates, because they are for them in the dunya and for you, referring to the companions, meaning us, and for you in the akhirah. Okay? So the hadith is clear. You can read into that a number of things, and we will, because obviously we've got this statement which talks about that it's even for a woman it's not allowed. But we'll come to that point in a minute. But just so that it's made clear to you that the Prophet ﷺ is giving an illah here. Yeah, he's giving a reason within the hadith. He's actually saying that these are the kind of things that they do in this dunya, showing off, using them, flexing, being proud and whatnot, making it some kind of wealth or whatever. I mean, I don't know why people do that kind of nonsense anyway, right? Because they're going to get scratched in the dishwasher anyway, aren't they? Yeah? So that's a big waste of money, isn't it? Huh? Isn't it? No? Or is it they don't get scratched? Is that the reason they use it? Well, I have no idea. We don't even, we never seen gold. Forget about actually pick one. We're simple people, yara. If we get a bit of perfume, it's only because his dad buys us a perfume. That's why I tax my duhan, Bengali perfume, he called it. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. No one in my entire life ever complained of that perfume. In this masjid, the Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar in the morning, it's amazing, sah? Huh? And
So you are not here. Fajr is bright and very nice. Opposite choice.
Subhanallah.
So I recommended you to stay home.
Is that fatwa, Shaykh? Allahu Akbar. Okay, so therefore, this hadith is clear, and it refers to all of the variations, whether painted, light, heavy, involvement, majority, diluted, presence and existence of gold and silver in plates and in knives and forks and utensils. Also, on the next page 74, in the Arabic of the Sharh Mumti', Sheikh mentions the hadith of Salama, which is also narrated by Imam Bukhari. الذي يشرب في آنية الفضة فإنما يجرجر في بطنه نار جهنم. The Prophet ﷺ said that whoever drinks from a silver container or from a silver container or silver cup, whatever, the water drunk from that will bubble. Yeah, will bubble in his, will be the fire of hell bubbling in his stomach. That's got to be the most unfunniest statement ever. And the guy starts laughing. But this is all Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar's fault. I just want to say that he's going around making faces at everyone and making everyone laugh. And now this hadith has been ruined by Shaykh Abdul Ghaffar. May Allah forgive him. Ameen. وَالنَّهْيُ لِلتَّحْرِيمِ This is a miskin is had to walk out. Look. which is good because he needs to have some cold. Yeah, he needs to get some fresh air and breathe again. Nahi, when you prohibit something, when you say don't do it, in Sharia indicates what? When you say don't do something, prohibition. Okay, tahrim, impermissibility. When you say don't do something, it indicates impermissibility. What also can someone tell me about this hadith specifically with respect to sin? Can anyone tell me something? It's a major sin. Why? Correct. There's a very important principle when it comes to sins. Whenever a punishment in the akhirah is mentioned, especially Jahannam, it is a proof that the sin is from the kaba'ir. It's a major sin. Because sins are of two types, minor and major. Yes? So major sins are aklu riba wa qadh al-muhsana, to take riba, to accuse a just woman, zina, all the standard kind of stuff. This is part of it. And how do we identify a major sin? When there is threat of a punishment, a wa'id shadid, of Jahannam, of something that will happen in the hellfire. Anything that mentions any of these in any kind of way, it is a proof that the actual action itself is a major sin. Minor sins are mentioned in a negative fashion. Okay? Don't do it. It's not permissible, etc., etc. A minor sin would be, for example, kissing a girl or something. Yeah, that's a good minor sin. Don't take it as minor though, but it's not a major sin. It's recoverable. Okay. Anyway, I can't think of another one. Anyway, encourage the youth. Astaghfirullah. We just want to just say what Allah Subhanahu wa Taala has said, and the Prophet ﷺ has said. We don't want to encourage anyone to go around kissing any girls. Okay. And don't. Please give me another example. What are you waiting for? What kind of imam are you, man? What do you mean, okay then go? Give me another example, you see? That's the problem. It's difficult to think of minor sins actually. It is actually quite difficult. Hmm? Swearing. Swearing. Not fahash. Not fahash. Al-mu'min is not fahash. Maybe. Because the Prophet ﷺ said that the believer does not use... Yeah, I think that's a good example, That's a good example. The Prophet ﷺ said that the believer is not someone who uses disgusting language. Okay? He didn't... And that's enough for you to not do it. Agreed? Yeah? Because it's not like mu'min. Yeah, and meaning that if someone does it, then he's not like mu'min. Yeah? But a specific punishment has not been mentioned. But I still like my example. Anyway. So, you might say, well, hold on. These are hadith, they're talking about big containers, the complete container or the complete glass. Where's the evidence for a bit or soldering? You know, where the cup is a normal wooden, made of china or whatever, and it has like, a gold streak going through it. This is not, and if you have a china cup with a solder of gold for it, you wouldn't call it a gold cup, would you? Yes? But we are saying that it's also impermissible to drink from that cup. So we'll say these two evidences don't refer to this one. But we'll say yes, it does. Because there is a hadith narrated by Imam Daraqutni where he said, إِنَّهُ مَنْ شَرْبَ فِي آنية الذهب والفضة أو في شيء فيه منهما. So this narration is, whoever drinks, the same will be for the person, same punishment will be for the one who drinks from any container made of gold or silver or something that has some of it in it. Some of it in it. Some of it meaning gold or silver, in it meaning the utensil. So this is what would cover the concept of soldering, or like an edging, or like a lacing, or like any other kind of, design function or whatever. This hadith has been narrated by Imam Daraqutni on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar, and he said that it has a good chain. It has a good chain. There follows a long discussion, which I don't think I will entertain at this moment, which basically establishes that this hadith has a number of problems, and I will say to you that Imam Nawawi said this hadith is da'if, that Ibn Taymiyyah said that this chain is weak, Imam al-Dhahabi said that hadith is rejected, hadith munkar, and so therefore it is possible that this hadith is not good enough to use as an evidence to specify the soldering. Now, that's not a major problem for us at this moment in time, because we're going to come and give an exception for soldering anyway in a minute, okay? But I want to say to you that the majority of the scholars, they insisted that one stays away from gold in every circumstance with respect to eating utensils, and silver, there's going to come a exception in a second. Now, I also want to say, what else do I want to say? Okay. Let's just finish with this. So we have three scenarios. We have three kind of uses. One is ittikhad, two is isti'mal, and three is eating and drinking from. Okay? So the first one, I buy it to use, whether I'm selling it, whether I'm putting it on the wall. Second is using it to carve, using it to cook it, using it to arrange something. Third is only use is just for drinking from, to actually eat and drink from. Okay? Eat and drink the food which is halal and clean inside a container which I'm just drinking from. What we need to ask is this. According to the madhab, eating and drinking, it is completely impermissible in its use. As for, according to the madhab, other than eating and drinking, is it permissible or not? Gold and silver we're talking about. We're talking about gold and silver. Have I lost everyone? Is it my fault? Maybe I have. Okay. I'm talking about the statement, except gold and silver. What is the exception from? The what? What's the ruling of that? Correct. Non-gold and silver allowed to be used. So when we say except gold and silver, then now we're talking about that basically gold and silver is not allowed to be used. Okay? Now, because I'm surprised that no one's asking any questions. Yani saying, well, hold on, are you saying that you can't use gold or silver in anything? Okay? Because it's not just eating and drinking, but as I said, there's acquiring and there's also, using the actual items themselves. So what I want to say to you is that the madhab, Hanbali madhab says that there's not allowed to use it at all, whatsoever. There is a statement in the madhab which is narrated on the authority of Imam Shafi'i that says that it is not haram. It is permissible basically to use gold and silver in other matters other than eating and drinking. Our position, my position, and Shaykh Uthaymeen's position is that it is permissible to use gold and silver implements and utensils in the use of acquiring and in the use of other things other than in eating and drinking. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he prohibited something very, very specific. What was that? Eating and drinking. And if it was impermissible in all matters, the Prophet ﷺ does not forget. He would have told us, because he is the most clear of the people and he is the most expressive of all people. And he does not specify one thing and one thing. So if it was, and in fact, Shaykh Uthaymeen says, his specifying eating and drinking is itself an evidence that anything other than that is permissible. لأن الناس ينتفعون بهما في غير ذلك, because the people benefit from that. And if the Prophet ﷺ had considered them to be completely haram, meaning looking at, buying, using, touching, etc., then he would have ordered for it to be broken, like he did with respect to the idols, and like he did with pictures of people that were in Kaaba and hanging around, and in the Arabian tribes, he had them destroyed, and he would have done that the same thing for it. But his allowing it proves that it is something which is permissible. ويدل ذلك أن سلمة and there is a narration which is collected by Imam al-Bukhari where Salama, she had a juljul, like a small, bigger than a cup, smaller than a bowl, like a container that was made of silver. And what Salama did is that she would keep the hair, a few hairs of a Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in that silver cup, and the people would come to her seeking shafa'ah through it, by its barakah, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the barakah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they were, by the idhn of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, cured when it was relevant and appropriate. This is of course in Sahih al-Bukhari. What is this a proof of? It's a proof of using something which is made of gold or silver in other than eating and drinking. It's a proof. Okay? And yeah, I think we'll stop there. Or should we? Okay, if someone says that, no, the reason that eating and drinking was specified is because this is what people are using it most of the time for, then we will say, this is a nice statement. I'm gonna quote this to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Surah An-Nisa, He says, وَرَبَائِبُكُمُ اللَّاتِ فِي حُجُورِكُم مِّن نِّسَائِكُم. If you translate this ayat literally, it means you're not permissible, the context is before, it's not permissible to get married to the raba'ib, which are your stepdaughters, okay? Fi hujurikum, in your rooms, from your women. That's why we don't literally translate things, okay? it's not permissible to get married to, from your women, your stepdaughters in your rooms. Now, when we translate this, we just translate it like this: the stepdaughters in your care. The woman is known, and the hujurikum, the statement of in your homes, we've translated as in your care. Because the point here is not the rooms, and the point here is not even in your care. Okay? Because it's possible for yani the in fi hujurikum has been added as an emphasis and as a balagha, as a beautifying of the Quran. But legally speaking, let me ask you a question. Your stepdaughter, if she's not in your house and she's in someone else's house, is it allowed to marry her?
No.
So therefore, the use of the hujurikum does not necessitate and restrict its meaning only to this area. Shaykh Uthaymeen's nice response there. He's saying that just because the hadith mentions the eating and drinking, and that shouldn't color the issue and make everything else and every other scenario haram as well. And so therefore, okay, and just to finish off this last minute now, he says that Shaykh Uthaymeen, he says that with respect to soldering, this refers to the men and women as well. Men and women. Okay? What about then the question that we asked? Hold on, is it not permissible that women can wear gold and beautify themselves with gold? And the answer is, of course, that's the case, but it's not permissible for men to do that. So then the question should be then فما الفرق بين اتخاذ الحلية واتخاذ الآنية واستعمالها فأبيح الأول دون الثاني. So if it's allowed for a woman to actually wear gold, so what's the difference between her drinking from gold? Okay? And the answer to that is because she's using the gold for tajammul, for beautification. And it's not yani for other people, it's for her own and for her partner. And so there is a benefit there. And whereas drinking from a gold cup, so yani a man is not allowed to wear gold jewelry. It is effeminate. That's me speaking, but Allah has said that it's not allowed. So there's a divine text. So gold can't be used. Okay, but it's allowed for a woman to wear gold. Okay, the woman used it to look nice, etc., etc., etc. If we were to allow a woman to drink from a gold cup, what benefit is it bringing to the man that she drinks from a gold cup? What is the benefit? There is no benefit, unlike the gold jewelry. So it's not the same to use the logical argument that if it's already allowed for the woman, then it should be allowed for the woman to eat from it or drink from it as well. That's the first response. And the second response is actually from the hadith that we mentioned before, which is the clearest response. The illah was given. This is for them in the dunya and walakum fil akhirah. So this is not talking about sexual gender discrimination. This is about Muslim, non-Muslim. That these are for them. And so obviously lakum, for you in the akhirah, is including men and women. Okay? And it's lahum is also including men and women from non-Muslims. So let them enjoy themselves with it in this life, and it's for you in the next life. And that, alhamdulillah, pretty much covers, I don't know, was that 1 page or 2? I don't know. I haven't got the English notes with me, but at least that's the subject covered. So therefore, in response to the Facebook thing, it is permissible for you to have a golden gun. Isn't it? Now it is, yeah. Just in case before you didn't. What's that guy's name? Francisco Scaramanga? Scaramanga. What a guy, Yara. What a guy. صح. Saddam had a golden Kalashnikov, صح. Jaiz, yeah? It's allowed, isn't it? Yeah. Does Saddam have a third nipple as well? You don't know. Shazad is the fount of knowledge. Maybe he knew about Saddam's nipples as well. Alright guys, any questions? Yes?
Bro, you know when you're saying about kissing a girl, right?
Yes.
Isn't it mentioned in hadith that if you took that long arrow, the angels were like hammer a nail in your body or something like that?
It's a very good question. The brother says that you said about the kissing of a girl. Isn't it that there's a hadith that says that the touching of a non-mahram is like one would prefer to be stabbed with a needle. Okay, an iron needle. Three things I will say in response to that. Number one, the reason that we say that the kissing of a girl, obviously when we're talking about kissing of a girl, we're not talking serious behavior. We're talking a person just can't resist himself and he just pecks her on the cheek or something, I don't know, whatever, yeah? We're not talking anything else after that. We're literally talking in the street, he's walking past, he says, what's happening here? Son, you don't get any ideas, yeah? I know you're looking at me. Because this big guy is looking straight at me, yeah? Thinking, oh my God, right? So, what are you doing awake anyway this time? So, he's walking in the street and he's just, something comes over him and he just walks up to the next girl and just pecks her on the cheek or pecks her whatever, and then he legs it, whatever, I don't know, yeah? So, I'm saying that something not too far from that happened to Abu Yusr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, and because of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed an ayah in the Quran which was to establish the prayer, and that the prayer would expiate that action. It's not permissible, it's not possible to expiate major sins. Okay, only tawbah expiates a major sin. Does that make sense? And so if any act of ibadah, if it's expiating a sin, that sin must be minor, legally speaking. That's the first thing I'll say. The second thing I'll say is some scholars consider this hadith to be weak. Okay? The third thing I'll say is that if we assume this hadith to be authentic, okay, it is a hadith which is referring to pain here as opposed to a punishment in Jahannam. And when I said what I said, I was very, very specific. The scholars, they said that a proof or an indication that a sin is a major sin is when it states a Jahannami punishment. I'll even mention another thing if I was really kind of defending my life on this issue. I would say also that even this principle of a punishment that is mentioned in a hadith indicates that it's a major sin. This is not stated by the Prophet ﷺ or by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's a human derived principle. It's possibility of being right or wrong. But the majority of the scholars accept this principle. Okay? Allah knows best. Anyone? Okay. Okay, one more.
Before you mentioned some people seek shafa'ah through the Prophet's hair. What are the rulings on?
Give me 10 years, then we'll get to that part. There's no way you're opening that chapter at all.
Counterclaim.
Huh?
Counterclaim from last week.
Acha! This is how. No, it's not getting out of hand at all. Astaghfirullah. What do you mean it's getting out of hand? Up your game, son. Okay? Because, mashallah. All I need to say is that there's 2 serious chocolates in here. Okay? This is very important. If there's ever a great sunnah that was established, this has got to be it. Alright. Oh, this is great. Najas logo counterclaim. It's like nice language, yani. Nice language. So we hear that as an apple is a blessed fruit that comes from Allah. And so we are not permitted to use the Apple computer logo. Let's analyze the logo. Yes, it may resemble an apple, but it is not a photo of a natural apple. The logo for their brand, do not get sidetracked in thinking that as the logo, it represents the blessed fruit. I think it is clear that if an alcohol company used a logo that represents grapes, would we say it is a halal brand? Are you listening? It is not about the item that is represented in the logo. It's about the company the logo represents. Wah. Wah. Right. We have been told that many Muslims indeed own an iPhone and enjoy them. And thus therefore we cannot allow the Apple logo to be used for the Najas logo. Hold on. Surely this is the modern example of men owning and wearing silk clothes, gold jewelry, and gold watches. Now that's a bestie, isn't it? Yep. Okay. What have you got against Apple, Yara? Alright. We are told that Apple make beautiful products. of such lavish design and style and to ignore the technical issues that go wrong is just, you should let it go. His response: this means we are all forgetting one of the key tests for Muslims on this earth. Allah has placed many beautiful temptations in our path, which are indeed attractive and inviting for that short-term pleasure in this life. Let us look at 3 examples of what we are not allowed to indulge in during this life. Note that I have of course ignored the technical details about these examples. Number 1, alcohol. Looks tasty when presented by companies such as Bailey's. See, I agree with that. And that's the only example you could have used, by the way. Because the rest of the time it looks like Peshab, you know that, yeah? Yeah? So we know that, okay? That's a good blag. Number 2, women dressed in revealing clothes. Very attractive beauty, which is encouraging us to look and touch outside of marriage. And number 3, non-Islamic finance. Very attractive career to earn money from money. For those who want to buy a luxury lifestyle of big houses and expensive cars, which may be beauty, but it is not permitted. Are those 3 examples permitted for us? They are all examples of beauty, attraction and style in some form, but we all know they are not permitted. I could go on, but I think we can all clearly see how the Apple computer logo is the best logo for the international symbol for Najas. Ameen. I accept that wholeheartedly. And I must say that when the batil is put forward, if it is batil, the haqq has to be brought forward again. So the game continues. Let your next argument be strong and powerful. I advise you to take this out of the realm of just Apple versus Android. I advise you to bring in BlackBerry, bring in Nokia, bring in Sony, bring in Samsung. Inshallah, then by then I will have my own chocolate factory. So be imaginative. Jazakumullahu khairan. This is amazing business, wallahi. I don't know. What happens when I start picking on, using like a country's flag? Yeah. So if I use a country's flag for the symbol of najasa, surely that's going to freak out a number of people. And that's going to invite lots of gifts in it for counterclaims. Sah? I have to think about that. Astaghfirullah, no slashing tires. Jazakumullah khair. See you guys next week. I'm going to finish the questions on the forum over the next few days. I've started today. Jazakumullah khair. Huge effort. Answered now about 30, 50 questions alike. Alright. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What do you mean astaghfirullah? I smashed it. Yeah.